So I've been going through the CDC's advice from their article, Coping with a Disaster or Traumatic Event. They have 6 points that they share in their article. So looking now at the second of these, which is to connect with others. So the specific advice that the CDC gives is to share your concerns and how you're feeling with a friend or family member. Maintain healthy relationships and build a strong support system. So I'd like to pick that advice apart a little bit and just share some thoughts around how to approach that and how to accomplish that. So share your concerns and how you're feeling with a friend or family member. So this implies that you have a family member or a friend, and it implies that you have some human relationship and connections. We'll come back to that. But basically, connect with others implies that there actually be a relationship with others. There's someone who you're actually able to communicate with. And what they advise is to share your feelings and your concerns. So these two things, your feelings and your concern. So a feeling is something that you're experiencing right now. And maybe it's fear, maybe it's excitement, maybe it's depression, maybe it's, whatever is actually happening right now, that's your feeling. The concern is a fear, right? They didn't say fear, but that's what they mean. An imagination. What if this, and this? I'm worried about if this happens, then this. So they advise people to share those fears. Why? So, we live in I live in America where psychotherapists are everywhere, right? Everybody's been very used to for 50, 60 years sharing their feelings, sharing their concerns. It's kind of in the water here in the United States, but it's still maybe a little bit unusual in some parts of the world to just go to a complete stranger and pay them $250 and share your innermost secrets. But when the business model catches on outside of the US, it'll get a lot of traction. But all the gurus in India will realize how much income they would have been sacrificing all of these centuries, millennia. So there is something therapeutic about expressing a fear, right? If I express to you that I feel anxious about doing these videos, well, it's actually nice for me to say because I've given it a name, right? I call it by a name. Oh, it's anxiety. I have anxiety. I actually didn't know up until maybe 3 or 4 years ago when I started using the word, maybe it was longer, maybe 10 years or whatever, that I had anxiety. I didn't think I had anxiety. Who doesn't have anxiety, right? What living being does not live in fear of something or other, right? Anxiety is utterly, it's integral to our psychology, right? But I didn't know I had anxiety because I'd never used the word before. So when you're forced to use a word for something, well, all of a sudden, oh, I've got anxiety. Oh, then I can actually search the web for advice on dealing with anxiety because I have a word for it now. And so there's something, because basically it allows you to have a conversation between your rational mind that names things, labels things, and this irrational, beautiful soul and spirit in our heart, our emotional mind, wherever it is, our limbic system or our heart. It feels like it's in our heart, but the neurologists say it's in the limbic system, but somewhere. How are you feeling? What's going on? Oh, that feeling again. Oh, that memory again. Oh, that shame again. That guilt again. That fear again. So share your feelings and share your concerns, because you sort of when you explicate what your fear is, well, you have to flesh it out a little bit, right? Like I'm afraid that there won't be any. I'm going to just take a comical one here. I'm afraid that the world's going to run out of toilet paper. So of course, because there's going to be this global shortage of toilet paper, I should just hoard all the toilet paper. What's going to happen if there's no toilet paper? And I need toilet paper. Those concerns, when you start to verbalize them, then you can begin to pick them apart a little bit. And you can say, well, there's no reason we're going to run out of toilet paper. There is no shortage of trees. There's no shortage of toilet paper. You can probably borrow some from your neighbor. You see it's irrational. And just actually expressing your concerns, in many cases, they just dissolve away because you just think, oh my gosh, that was silly. Now, that's not to say that there are not legitimate concerns, so you say, what if I die? And my children, I I don't have children, but if I had children, who's going to take care of my children? That is a legitimate concern, right? So we can express that concern, and then at least we have a chance to think about it with someone else and perhaps flesh it out. It may happen. It is a realistic concern. So what is the preparation? Do my children need a godparent? Something like that. Do I need to write a will? Do I need to talk to my children about what might happen, etc.? There may be very practical things that we do, and the people that we're talking to, that might allow them to share that they have the same concern, right? And there is something incredibly powerful about the bonding that happens when two people share a common concern. All of a sudden we are stuck in this together, and you've just made a best friend. A person, they may have been the most annoying person in your office, some distant coworker, but you shared with them that you were wondering what would happen to your children if you die, and all of a sudden they have the same fear, and you have a new best friend. And that is the actual meaning of connecting with others, where you've connected deep in your heart and you're empathizing from the depths of your being with what another person's going on with. That is real connecting with others. The real power of that is it heals the heart, because we live in isolation. We are isolated psychologically. We feel like no one understands us, right? We feel like we're the only one in the world like us. It is so deep, this sense. And so to be able to connect with another person, it alleviates that primordial loneliness, right? That primordial sense of isolation. That is in itself healing. I promise you, if you have that experience, you could die peacefully, because you're dying in a state of love at that time. So from one point of view, there is no mental health shift more powerful than actually connecting with others from the depths of your heart. That is, you have zero mental health issue at that point. And that's why even when people with severe mental illness, say schizophrenia and so forth, they find support groups of other people with the same thing. They talk through their challenges and they make friends, right? And that alone is healing, right? So friendships alone are healing, even if you don't talk to them. And so the people who are living in isolation, living, alone for whatever reasons, they struggle, right? They struggle more than people who have family at all. And so when the CDC advises you to connect with others, reach out. If you are alone, if you are a person who lives alone, reach out. You need friends now. You were getting by okay before, a bit sad perhaps, but getting by. Maybe you don't have the coping skills now. Meet your neighbors, reach out to your neighbors, find on the internet support groups, people to talk to, kind communities. So this is the power of connecting with others. The remainder of the CDC's advice: maintain healthy relationships and build a strong support system. So maintain healthy relationships. There's a bit of an implicit message that if you're in an unhealthy relationship, don't maintain that. This is by no means an exhortation to make dramatic changes, but the divorce rate in China has actually spiked since coronavirus has hit. I don't know if this is apocryphal, but there's news stories about that, because couples are having to live together in the same small space. In almost every single situation, it's just a temporary thing, and they just need to learn how to get along with each other, and we'll talk about that more later. But if you are in an unhealthy relationship or situation, then maybe not the right one to be maintained. If you're in an abusive relationship, your partner may become more abusive under stress. But to the degree that we have healthy relationships, maintain our healthy relationships. Now that's in the spirit of not getting a divorce, right? Maintain healthy relationships. Do not let anger destroy your relationship. Anger is the fire, right? Anger is the fire that destroys our happiness and our healthy relationships. Nothing in my entire life has made me angrier than when people are angry at me. If somebody's angry at me, I'm like, that's so wrong, it's so unjust, right? They don't like me, right? Or they're jealous of me or something like that. Oh, makes me angry because there's a sense of indignation. Anger leads to anger. I get angry, so I say a snippy thing, and they get angry. They say a snippy thing, and anger escalates. It's like a fire, right? You have to put out the fire of anger. There's no better way to maintain a healthy relationship than to put out the fire of anger as soon as it arises. And that is something that I practice. I've practiced it for a very long time, and that's why I think I've had such a harmonious relationship with my wife, and because she as well also practices. We do not let anger run. We don't let it go wild in our minds. We don't let it build, right? I know some couples have advised, never go to bed with a fight without apologizing. That is a rule, some ethic that they build within their relationship. That's beautiful, kind of ethic. But we need to do our own approach. This is a whole, lot that could be said about not getting angry, but it's the very simplest way is think about something else. It's the very first meditation I ever learned was turning my mind to a block of wood. I would just stare at an inanimate object and stop thinking. This is Zen meditation. They love it. They do great at this meditation. Just stop thinking. Powerful. From the time I was a little kid, I was able to just cut the vast majority of delusions that I would get. Just cut them because I just turned my mind to a block of wood. Like, not going to get angry. Not going to get upset. I still get upset sometimes, but that's so powerful, so easy, such an easy meditation, blindingly easy. Just, I'm an inanimate object. You can yell at me. The childhood chant, right? Sticks and stones may break my bones, but words will never hurt me, right? Your words will never hurt me. So I'm immune to your words. They're falling on deaf ears, so you're at peace completely. There's a lot of other approaches you can take to addressing anger, but the main thing is recognize it is toxic. It is toxic to you. It is toxic to your relationship. Anger lives in your heart like a fire. It weighs on you. It stresses you out. And when I have lived with anger, small anger or large anger, it takes a toll on your health, right? You sleepless nights and grinding your teeth and, a little edgy when you talk to certain people, a little bit defensive and so forth. It's like, life's too short to spend your whole life defensive and edgy, right? Um, uh, you know, ain't nobody got time for that, right? Ain't nobody got time for spending your whole life angry, indignant at the world. So squash your anger, or the better, mechanism. Many mechanisms to oppose anger. One of them is just liking the person you're with, thinking about their good qualities, thinking about, oh, I know they're just upset, they're just stressed. You don't need to. You don't need to believe that they're actually trying to destroy your life, because that's what anger does. It tricks you into thinking that this person's trying to destroy my life. They don't care that much about you. That's the secret. When you think that somebody else is just like ruining your life, they're not thinking about you. They're watching TV. They're just thinking about themselves. Nobody's really trying to ruin your life. That is our pride, right? It's our pride thinking that, you know, they're trying to ruin my life, or everybody should respect me, or, our pride gets in the way, and all kinds of things. And the final bit of advice that the CDC gives in connecting with others is building a strong support system. It's interesting, a support system. In this context, I think they mean an emotional support system. And obviously, if you are like a parent with small children, building and a single parent, for example, building a support system is having friends who can also help look after your children if you need to go to the hospital. So there may be a practical sense in which we do need to build a support system of people that we can turn to, rely on, neighbors, friends. Sometimes it's just emotional support, right? It's having family that we can call, friends we can call, people, groups online that we like, where there's not a lot of trolling and flaming, where we can speak in positive ways with one another. This is part of our support network. There's a deeper sense in which we have an invisible support network that is 8 billion people strong, right? And going beyond people to animals and so forth. We have a support network that is inconceivable, literally blow our minds to try to conceive of the support network that supports us. If we're thinking about small steps, building a support network, it takes courage to ask someone, to knock on someone's door. So far, where I'm living in an apartment complex, nobody's knocked on my door ever to ask for help. It's almost never happened in my previous experience. People who grew up in small towns and people who live in small towns today may have a very different experience, but our urban areas and suburban areas are very isolated, right? Everybody's strangers. Everybody's moved there from somewhere else, right? So we don't really know anybody. I live in an apartment complex called the Village, right? Idyllic village. It's not a village because we all work outside, live outside, don't know each other. It's a bunch of strangers. So it takes courage to begin to build a support system, to knock on someone's door if you need something. So we need to build that courage in ourselves. One beautiful quote that I saw from Mike Rother, who's a famous guy in the lean manufacturing world, lean enterprise world, but he said how ironic it is that maintaining social distance is a way of coming together collectively. So maintaining a social distance isn't rude. It's not hostile. It's showing respect for the other person, right? Showing respect. It's a respectful distance. It's a beautiful thing, really, social distancing. So anyway, building our support network, support system takes courage to ask people, but then recognize there may be some give and take, and there's some negotiation among humans. We need to figure out, what's fair and negotiate. But that is something where we need to take steps, practical steps. Okay. The other support system, the only thing I'll say about this sort of invisible, infinite support system is there is a billion reasons to be grateful every moment. Just looking around at the world that has been built around us for us to live in, the people that we know, the people that we don't know, the fact that we have an education. So look for those. Look for those invisible signs that someone or something has built something that's now of use for you. Someone has grown the food or shipped the food that you've eaten that's nourished your body. When we begin to wake up to how much has gone into creating the world that we live in, even though there's risks and dangers in general, it is a phenomenally amazing world, we see actually we have a support system already. We don't even have to build it. We think we live alone. We don't live alone. You live on furniture that was built by some kind person's hands, right? You live on a floor that was built by the strong and courageous construction crew that risked their own health to build the building you're living in, right? Literally, I'm standing on shoes that were made by someone or a machine. Someone made a machine that made the shoes these days. We're living every manufactured thing. The desk that I have is a wooden desk, right? Someone organized for that to be shipped, to a store and so forth. There's signs of kindness everywhere. Nobody lives alone. No one lives alone, even for a millisecond, microsecond. See the support system that you already have. Find new eyes to wake up to the support system that you already have.